All right, looks like we're live. I'm here with Dragos from Romania, and he's actually been a senior mobile engineer for the past 7 years, and somehow we fell into Gno.land. He's the creator of the Flippando app and one of our grant contributors. So we're going to spend some time with him and hang out and see what he's been up to. Um, Thanks for being here, Dragos.
Thanks for inviting me, John. Very nice to be here. Thanks for accepting my weird time zone invitation. For context,
Yeah,
yeah,
no
for
worries.
context, I'm in Saigon right now, and you are in.
I'm up in Northern California.
Yeah, so it's like a
So good,
huge, probably 11 hours, I think.
good. I think so, yeah, just about. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started and start off the interview with just a bit on your background. You were telling me a little bit before we hit record, but I think it's kind of cool to get the context here.
I've been involved with computers since I can remember. As a as a teenager, I started to run code on ZX Spectrum clones in Romania, in communist Romania, where I grew up. They were actually copying all kind of things, and they were like the ZX Spectrum processors that they kind of made a copy of them in Romania, and I was actually able to use them and write software in Beta Basic. And fast forward a few decades, I've been working either as a freelancer, either as a entrepreneur, either as an employee in various jobs involving coding. And I used to joke when people when are asking me what kind of languages do you write on, I used to tell this thing that growing up in communist Romania, we were kind of in a scarcity mindset, and we were only allowed to learn one language, and that language was called whatever. So basically, I code in whatever. So that's a true story. So everybody, any computer programmer in Romania works in whatever language they are about to. It doesn't make a difference if it's Java, Objective C, or anything. But for the past 7 years, to kind of narrow down the story, for the past 7 years, I've been working as a senior mobile engineer for a company in UK, taking care of an e-com app, talking to a PHP API backend. But at the same time, I kind of dabbled into all kind of crypto from a technical perspective. I've been always very curious about how these things work from a technical perspective. Not much on the Lambo trading side, but mostly on how we do cryptography and stuff like that. So I kind of learned how to, and I've been involved in a few projects. Both small or large in the crypto space. So at this, basically in the last 7 years, I've been working on a main job as a senior mobile engineer, but I've been also involved in various projects um, in crypto.
Okay. So you do have previous crypto experience. Where were you sort of tinkering?
Oh, I've been doing many things. I've been doing this since it was still feasible to mine Bitcoin on your laptop, but I've never kind of stick to it. But talking about larger time frames that I've been involved with products is like the social media blockchain app called Hive, which was previously Steemit. I used to run a witness node there for like 5 years, so I kind of know how it is. I've been participating to a few conferences, kind of consistently every year. That's how I got to meet. Um, that's a nice story, actually. That's how I got to meet Jay, the founder of Adam and No. We met in real life
Oh,
like 5 years ago at a conference in Romania, and they were just finishing the ICO, which was one of the biggest ICO of that time in 2017. And it was such a nice journey to watch how they're actually implementing things, how they're actually following up on the milestone with those money, while at the same time, people who are having significantly more amounts of money did absolutely nothing. And I'm talking about, project like EOS who got like 4 billions worth of ICO, and they're pretty much nowhere now. And as far as I remember, I think Atom has in the beginning 17 millions or 27 millions, something like that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they were
17,
able
it's
to
crazy.
actually implement and execute, which is something commendable. So I got a chance to actually talk to Jay and Brian. They were both at that conference. Brian, who's with the ICF right now. And that was a
Cool.
really nice thing because I since then I followed up, and as the ecosystem grew, I become a, observer, and eventually I ended up here.
That's cool. Yeah, so you got to meet Jay like 5 years ago when he was like really campaigning for Cosmos Hub and like way
Yeah,
before
exactly.
Gno.land.
Yeah,
Yeah.
way
So
before Gno.land, way before Atom.
yeah, well, I mean, dang, that might be even before, longer than 5 years ago.
Yeah, that was the end of
Yeah.
2017, 16, I think, or
Okay. Yeah.
2017. 6 years ago. 6 years ago, in February 2017.
Yeah. So do you have any background in like Cosmos besides that? Like, did you like have you worked with any engineering efforts or?
I've been participating to a couple of hackathons and winning some of them. I got the chance to win Hackathon 6, I guess, with a project called Get Crypto Game. Um, it is actually a um, card game, a real life card game, which I tried to translate into one of the Cosmos SDK. Unfortunately, that project is not live anymore. I think it was called Pylons or something like that. I implemented something in Pylons like 6 years ago, and we won the hackathon. I'm happy to report that the project is still alive. Our project, like the real game card, it's been translated into Korean and Portuguese and Spanish, and you can actually buy the deck cards into. It's an educational game. You can actually buy the deck cards on Game Crafter. It's a website that kind of does in-demand print of card games. Uh, Very little coding into that project, but still a very good educational endeavor, and it's kind of leads forward. So yeah, I was involved in this hackathon, and yeah, right now I'm doing this grant on Gno.
Cool, perfect. Yeah, so I mean that kind of gives some context. You've kind of been involved. You said, mobile engineer, and then you've had some background like with developing games, and so that kind of leads like straight into this. Like you are one of the people working with the grant program, and your game is called Flippando, which is basically a memory tile matching game. Do you want to fill us in a little bit on your work with the grant program and what kind of stuff you've been up to?
Yeah, this is one of the nicest opportunity I ever had. It was like a serendipitous event for me. All started at one conference. Like you see, going out to conferences for me, it's kind of my go-to way to kind of do things, getting out there, being involved, meeting people in real life. So I was at this event in Seoul, Korea, in May this year, and I participated to a hackathon called Glitch Hackathon with the game, which was written in Solidity. I kind of took the task of writing a memory game in Solidity, specifically because Solidity is a language which is not suitable for games. It's very difficult. Its string libraries are almost inexistent. So I started to do this, and I got a game to a certain level, and I participated to this hackathon. To my surprise, I won the first place to the Polygon track. And that kind of gave me a little bit of visibility, and I started to go to another event called Beetle Asia. And at the same time, one of the side events of Beetle Asia was a GNO conference, which was actually Manfred presenting proof of contribution and kind of showing up how people can get involved into the GNO ecosystem. So I just signed up for this event. I participated to this event, and after Manfred presentations, I congratulated him, and he asked me, "What do you do?" Well, I came here and I just won a hackathon. Can you show me what you did for the hackathon? And I showed him, and after half an hour of talking, he said, "Well, I like what you do. You should apply for our grant program." So from that point on, I applied, and the entire application went through the process of being vetted, being approved, it took about 2 months for it to come to fruition. But eventually it was approved, which I'm very happy. So I got to kind of port Flippando, the game written in Solidity, to Gno, which was one of the most challenging stuff, the task that I ever did, because it's first of all because it's a new language for me, Go, and second because the stack is and the Gno is not yet as mature as Solidity or our other VMs. There are changes, there are still hidden bugs, there are still the dev environment is not as stable or as mature as Hard Hat or other ecosystems that you can play with. But nevertheless, it was very fulfilling. It is very fulfilling. I'm basically tomorrow. I don't know where this will going to be released, but the tomorrow of today, I'm going to present on the no developer call the final version of this.
Perfect. Yeah. So okay, so you met Manfred in Middle Asia. Yeah, we had an event there. I think it was like
Yeah.
July or something. And then so
Yes.
that's how you learned about the grant program. You talked to him
Yeah.
directly.
If you look
So
at the GitHub page, you will see that I'm the first ever grantee. I was that was my first application in the program. I was just like a very like serendipitous. They were just launching. I was the first to find out, and I just applied. That was a
yeah,
weird
so I mean, it was just
coincidence.
kind of like the universe kind of like lined up there. I was going to ask you like what motivated you to even sign up for the grant program, but it just like fell into place.
Yeah, exactly. It just happened like coincidence. I'm not, I think like coincidence are events that are not very easy to understand for us. We kind of lack the the larger picture and we don't see anything. So every time a coincidence happens, uh, I think, oh, there's something going on here.
Yeah, that's cool. So actually, you said that this game was coded in Solidity,
Yes,
and then you had to port it basically to Gno.land, and that was a
yes.
bit more difficult because Gno.land's not as mature. There's not as much documentation. It's very, new. One of my questions here for on that specifically is like, what was that like? Did you have to, like, because you Solidity is its own thing, and you have to did you take just the logic and then you had to port everything over, or did you have to sort of rewrite it from scratch, knowing that you had this like code base? How did that go?
I basically rewrite it from scratch. It's no way to kind of take it, like mirror one to one the functions in Solidity, because one of the thing is, first of all, Solidity has a weird way of dealing with variables because it's such a tiny VM machine. And one of the limitations that not many programmers are aware of, that you cannot have more than 16 variables at the same time in a program. So which is like a tiny little thing. You have to resort to structs. You have to kind of break down your logic and your state in such a way that it will fit in that tiny little thing. When you code tokens and DeFi and you just take from one pool to the other and you have like just two, three things, you don't bump into this. But when you code something more complex, like a game with state, with user, with huge matrices that has to be worked, then you kind of very fast go into that limitation. So I had to, the Solidity code base was kind of, um, very weirdly put in place. So when I started to work on no, I decided this no way this is going to work. I'm going to start with something like this would be the new game. I will write this game anew, and I will use whatever I can get uh, from this new language. And there are a few things that are specific to GNO. For instance, like the AVL tree implementation, there is a certain type of data struct that is specific to GNO. And there's also the test-driven development technique. Like you don't get to kind of see exactly what you do. You kind of run test and then you put some UI over it. So yeah, it was a very challenging endeavor, especially in the first couple of weeks, until I understand how this huge black box in front of me works, and I kind of find a way to iterate very fast. In the beginning, the biggest hurdle was that I wasn't able to do the development cycle very fast, like write code, test, do it again, write code, test, do it again, because you
Mhm.
cannot deploy the same realm with the same name in Gno. as opposed to Solidity. In Solidity, you can just deploy the contract at a new address and you save that address in a config file and you just work. In Gno, what I resorted to was to kind of reset the entire chain every time I was doing everything and kind of redeploy. So I made my own set of scripts. There's an interesting caveat to that, and there's an interesting consequence. As I was sharing these kind of challenges that I had with the people in the developer calls that we had, people started to pay attention, and they said, okay, this is the first time we have feedback from outside. It seems like this is one of the biggest problems. Let's solve it. So they immediately focused on this thing, and in about 4 6 weeks, something like that, they crafted something called the portal loop, and they implemented the portal loop, which is a thing that actually resets the chain, but keep the transactions that you had. You don't have to kind of restart and redo anything from zero. If you have transactions or accounts or balances, they will be added every time you kind of start the chain. So the good news is that by getting into these challenges and by sharing them with the developers were able to react very fast and kind of iterate and solve these issues very fast. And one of the other things that was created and implemented, we just saw it last week in the internal call, is called Gno.dev, which is something that is almost identical with the way you develop in React Native with Watchman. Is a tool that kind of looks on the file base, and every time you modify a file in the realm directory, in the realm folder, it reloads the chain in real time. So it makes this extremely easy and straightforward. So yeah, to wrap it up, on one side you had challenges, and on the other side you kind of progress because you get these challenges, you share it, and people start working on them.
Yeah, that's great. It's I mean, that's a big testament to like why we need external contributors working on stuff in Gno.land, because you can't realize the limitations until you develop something that's kind of outside of the scope of like what you would expect somebody to build. So I mean, even just like any app really, like there's going to be something that you run into, and having sort of that direct conversation with the core team, they can sort of get into it and understand like, hey, this is something that you need. These are tool sets that we should develop for other people in the future because they're going to need them.
Exactly.
That's great. That's actually super cool to hear. Did you like that was a really good like sort of noteworthy insight. Did you have any more while you were working on the game?
One of the things that I was really uh weird in the beginning was how to kind of, and I kind of nailed it down only recently in the last few days, how to get faucet tokens for me. So this was like like you get to work in Solidity and you're used to kind of get you work in Mumbai and you get Matic tokens, you get in Sepolia and you get faucet tokens every single way. Here it was not that easy. So eventually I had to kind of tinker deep down and kind of look into, I think there are two faucets right now, one of them written in Go and used for the Notches project.
Mhm.
Parenthesis, I've been very happy to be supported by great contributors in your team, like Manfred and Milos. And as a grantee, I've been in close contact with Milos, and Milos told me, you have like two faucets, pick whatever you want. So I looked into the one written in Gno, and then I looked in the Gno faucet, the binary that comes with the actual installation of the Gno repo. They're pretty much the same, but there are a few differences between them. So I eventually made it work like 2 days ago with with the one in Go. So I actually before that I had to kind of beg for faucet for token. Please send me some tokens so I can so I can do something like that. These are the early days. These are the early days, and these are the problems that you kind of encounter in the early days. It's all normal. It's funny when you look back around, you just bump into this wall. Oh, I got everything. I got the logic. I got Oh, faucet tokens. Where did I get faucet tokens?
Yeah, it's like something that
Yeah.
should be so simple, but it's really complicated because of the bots. We had like just for context there, we had a faucet on the Discord, And then we also had a faucet straight on the website, but we had bots that were just running them like empty, just thousands of transactions claiming and so it's like, yeah, the faucet thing has kind of become a problem. We don't have a mainnet, and so there's no value to the tokens, and so that's like, yeah, the distribution of it is like really,
Yeah, I
it's a
mean,
challenge for sure.
this is the way it works right now, having like an internal thing and developing internally on a local dev environment. It's a much better approach. Like you have your own tokens in your own local blockchain. You don't have to rely on the testnet. That's how it usually uh, uh, developed. But what it was lacking here is what a little bit more of documentation on that part. If there was, you have two binaries and not too much documentation, you kind of have to peek into the source code, which I have no problem with. I prefer to read source code than documentation most of the time. But yeah, just to start, just to know where to start, what to do, it's kind of a big, thing that you have to untangle and to understand what's going on. So yeah, that was another thing that was a bit weird in the beginning,
Yeah, funny little
but
hiccup, huh?
funny. Yeah, but funny.
Yeah. All right. So how did you find the transition from your previous programming environment to Gno.land? You said you were playing in Solidity. Where were you before that?
I work every day in React Native, and I work every day with Swift, Objective-C, and Java. So
Hmm.
working in Go was um, a bit of a mental jump because Go, Go, Gno, I will use this interchangeably. Go, Gno is such a simple thing, such a easier to read, and such it's focused on such a minimalist stance that you eventually the things that you write in probably 20 lines of code you can write in four in Go if you really know how to do it. So one of the things that I found very rewarding that it kind of helped me reorganize my code base, reorganize my logic, and put it in a much readable way and make things um, simpler, look simpler and less complicated. The transition wasn't very difficult. I learned Go while doing Flippando. I had no idea about it before, but
Yeah,
it wasn't very difficult. I found it, and I like it. I mean, it's a very nice and clear language.
cool. Perfect. So I mean, you were working in Solidity, and then you said you work daily React Native. So I have one question here. Like it seems like you have pretty good background in traditional development methods. So I'm kind of curious, like with your experience with smart contract technology, do you feel like there are some advantages or disadvantages when it comes to sort of creating this final result?
I mean, at the end of the day, it all just bytecode. It's all bytecode. You have it's just software writing. It's not very different. There are a few insertion points which are kind of different in this specific what we call Web3 or crypto. And probably the most important one is the insertion point, and when the user does anything, the user is not a user password combination saved in the database. The user is a key right now. So this kind of changes everything that you and kind of wraps your head around everything that you have to do. The second thing that was very important is that what you save right now is not in a relational database. When in traditional coding, you are kind of prepared to fan out your data into multiple tables and to get it ready every time you want. In Web3, what you save transactions in a sequential database to kind of fade out as the blockchain grows and you get into trouble, and you have to be very mindful of what type of data you save, what type of data needs to stay in the chain, what data is ephemeral, what data needs to trigger an event, and stuff like that. So these are two kind of things that you kind of need to wrap your head around when you transition from a traditional development paradigm to blockchain. First of all, you have no user, you have just keys. So the keys and like how you get the state of the how simple and how complicated an account can be, because you can have keys that are control other keys, and you can actually make an account really complex. It's not just one key public-private key pair. For instance, in Hive, one account has three kind of pairs, three kind of keys. One key is for posting, one key is for transfers, and one key is for memo. So basically, you sign messages in the way when you publish, you sign messages in the way when you transfer funds, and you sign messages in the way when you communicate with somebody else. Of course, like the latest account abstraction thing in Ethereum makes things even more complicated than that when you kind of have like many accounts that talk to other accounts. This is very different from the traditional paradigm, like I told you, when you have one conceptually one username and password thing, and you have one key that says this is the user, this is authenticated. We can put a metadata on it, and that's it. And the other thing is like how you save and structure and retrieve data. Because of this specific, like sequential writing in an immutable blockchain, data products like Graph Protocol had to exist, like indexers that kind of take this data and make it available very easy with like, relational database queries and stuff like that. So I would say these are the two most important things that you kind of be aware if you kind of transition from traditional development to blockchain development, Web3 development.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a bit of a learning curve, but it's in some ways you said it was kind of similar.
There's a learning curve in anything. I mean, I come from a space where my first ever software was written in COBOL on punch cards. So I am that old. I actually wrote my first. Yeah, I wrote in COBOL. I wrote in Fortran. At the end of the day, it's just like like bits in a machine. If you have enough time spent on a certain thing, you kind of see how it goes. So it's all the same thing. Right now we're writing, I don't know, Viper, which is like the newest coolest thing in Solidity in EVM or like Solidity. It's just the same thing. I mean, it's just the tiny virtual machines with 100 opcodes or something like that, and you can actually write anything you want. So, but the paradigm is what kind of needs to be changed. How you process your data, because data is what makes the app alive. So in traditional, you have this paradigm. In blockchain, we have the different paradigm. But at the end of the day, it's just software.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, that's some really great insight. I feel like this is one of the most interesting firesides we've done, actually, because you have such a long background in software development. It's cool to see like your insight on the evolution of things and how it's kind of moving forward. Cool. So I mean, we're about halfway through the time. I was kind of hoping let's do the demonstration. Let's check out Flippando.
Okay, I'll jump into the dangerous territory of sharing my screen now. Let's see. Let's see if this can work. Yeah. So you are the first one to see this, actually. So this is the new UI that has been not yet presented to anyone else. It's a new kind of brand new thing. I'll try to guide you up. If you want to interfere, just talk to me because I cannot see it. I'm looking into the other window. So
Okay.
as you can see, we have like the ability to flip tiles, and tiles come at this time in three types. One of them is square grids, that different color. So you have to remember the color of square grids. The other one is like dice. So you have to remember the number of the dice. Or the one which is more complex, hexagrams. You have to remember the shape and the type of this hexagram. As you start flipping, as you start solving these matrices, we'll see in a moment how a matrix is, they will appear here. And one interesting thing will happen here at the wallet area. I will explain this when we get there, but there is a correspondence between this, and that's what kind of makes the game, or that it's not a game, it's more like an experiment in virtual economy that makes it interesting. So let's start a new flip because it starts like very easy, very like even a kid could play this. As you can see, we have a uncovered matrix. We tap two tiles, And now a request is made to the background, which is my Gno node running here. And because these tiles didn't match, I will have to choose another one. The color stays the same here, so I have green, white, yellow, and green. And if I tap these two, I think I will have a match. Yeah, if I have a match, these are staying uncovered. So I have a yellow and a white here. Let's see. I'm going to play this because it's not going to take that long, probably 3-4 minutes. So we have
Yeah.
yellow, white, black, dark green, light green. Let's see what we have here. Yeah, so we have this and this. And if I'm correct, they should match. Yeah, they match. So we have dark green and white coming here. As you can see, the game kind of enforces your memory skills, your visual memory skills, and also a little bit of strategy in how you uncover the matrix at this point. So this is white, just so you see, it's a slight nuance difference between this gray and this white.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's part of the game, making the game a little bit more interesting. Yeah, so we have dark and yellow. Yeah, so first of all, we got to this point where we have a 4x4 matrix and we have only 4 tiles left. There is a glitch in the game mechanics that makes the last 2 tiles overwrite whatever was there, but being random. So we're gonna have this, and this will match. The server will send matching tiles, and we are putting this in the UI like Flippando is hitting entering unstable quantum state. And this one as well, there will be random sent by the server. Now, we're at the point where we said we finished the game. We unsolved the matrix. We can do something interesting, and that's where the virtual economy starts. That's what I was hinting in the beginning, starting to unfold. If I mint this as an NFT, which is an SVG on-chain NFT, the metadata is stored on the Gno chain as an SVG string. If I mint this, something interesting will happen. As you can see, it appears here. The board was minted. We can see it here. On top of the NFT, the Flippando game also has a fungible token, which is called Flip, and we just update it here. So every time I'm unlocking, I'm solving a matrix, this matrix has one fungible token, Flip, inside of it. It cannot be unlocked unless somebody else uses my tile to create art. So this is my tiles, and these are the tiles that I previously used to make artwork, to make to assemble them in a painting. So what is the painting? As you can see, this is different. This tile is different. Is solved by someone else. If you remember kind of the distribution of this with what I have here, you'll see that this is different. So in this playground where I can actually see, I see the things that are made by other people. So these matrices that will appear here, and eventually if there are many people kind of coding this, kind of playing this game, there will be many, 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 many things. We will see these, okay, let's start again. So we will see these kind of ready to use. They have a locked token inside. Sometimes it hangs up, so I will try to reload
Okay.
just to make sure.
Yeah.
Okay,
So I
so
mean,
now we see.
you finish your board, and then it mints an NFT, and then you get your locked flip token, and then
Yes,
here you can make like a bigger piece of art using other
exactly.
people's.
Yes. So this is other people's token. Okay. So if I do this and I put it here, and I have many, many, many here, I can click this and make a new NFT. What happens when I make a new NFT, I get these pictures of new NFT that made out of this. And the locked flip token inside this is unlocked and sent to the original creators. And I become the owner of all the NFTs inside of this of this canvas, which in time grows up and it can become less and less pixelated and more detailed. You know, so that's pretty much how it works. Maybe we can have time to dive into the tokenomics sometime later, but for now, I think that is okay.
Yeah,
So
it's a cool little experiment. Yeah.
yeah,
So you were saying that this is also running on Solidity. How's that going over there?
that's going a little bit more difficult because you have to sign transactions every time unless you have account abstraction. If you use account abstraction and somebody else is paying for gas, then you don't see the MetaMask prompt and you can actually have a smoother experience. The entire
Mm,
development in Solidity is kind of shaped by this. Solidity has a function, has already implemented sponsored games. Sponsored games are games when the tiles are actually logos or symbols or someone else. So, for instance, Adam or Gno want to launch something and they launch a set of sponsored games with the logo. So when you tap on the tiles, you have to remember the logo. So it's kind of a way to, and those specific sponsored games will have more lock flip inside than just one because it's paid. So people will feel incentivized to play the sponsor game first because they will unlock 4 flips instead of one, for instance. So this is kind of shaped the Solidity way of implementing because the constraints that every blockchain has. Gno is much faster. Gno is it works much better just like it is. So it feels more like a traditional app when you kind of go and get what you want instead of waiting, signing, reading events on the side like you're doing Solidity. You first do a transaction, then you listen to an event. Oh, the transaction went okay. Okay, what's the transaction? Look in the topics, read the topics, decode, and everything. Yeah, so that's the game.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
awesome. It's cool. It's a fun little experiment, and it's interesting that there's so much like sort of difference between the two development languages. How is no how is it doing it in the in the back end? Like you said that with Solidity, it has to do each call for each transaction. How
Mhm.
are you doing that in No.land where it doesn't have to?
So there are two two pieces of software deployed. One of them is it's in the packages folder. It's like if you're familiar
Uh,
with how the GNO folder structure looks right now. One of them is in the packages and one of them is a real. What the one in the packages does, it just serves a board back and flip tiles. That's it. It's very agnostic. It just gives you back a board of 16 tiles, which is an array, and kind of flip random numbers and does all the random generation. Parenthesis, one of the biggest hurdles in working with Nova is random generation. So I had to actually write my own random generator and integrating into the, which is not very good for complex purposes, but good enough for the game. So there is the package that actually just serves a board and flip tiles. On top of that, it's a realm, which kind of talk to this every time it generates a new game and every time it needs to find two random numbers that will get back. Because the board is not, we give the user the impression that the board is there and you have to uncover, but the board doesn't exist at all. So it is actually made as you go along, because otherwise it would be very easy for someone to inspect the state of someone and you see, oh, the board
mhm.
has this structure. So the solution that I came up with is that every time you solve a thing, you actually generate two random numbers within a specific range. So I have these functions and this realm. This realm is getting called by the Gno.js client. So I'm using Gno.js client to do Noki make TX, and I'm sending actually transactions, and these transactions are returning results in real time. We don't need events reading here. It's more like almost in a synchronous way. We get the results, and it is much faster and much easier to read. We get the result of whatever transaction we had in the moment. We don't need to that setup that is in Solidity to kind of wait and listen for the event and read the queue. Also, the state is saved inside the realm. So sometimes I just want to read the state, which is a much cheaper call. I just read the state without modifying it. Like I know how many locked tokens are. I know how many NFTs are without actually trying to query the blockchain and modify state of some or something.
Okay. So when you finish this, or I mean, it's going to be launched. You said this week.
It's
People
kind
can
of
play it,
finished.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So people will be able to play it starting Wednesday. You said maybe.
Yeah.
Okay. So here in just a couple days. One question I have is like, do you intend to launch this on mainnet and then mint the GRC20 flip token and see what happens with that?
At this moment, this is kind of an experiment. We didn't touch on the tokenomics part, which I think is the most interesting part of this, because that's where the actual experiment is, where that's where the social mechanics kind of start to be a little bit more interesting and where we can have more insights. If these are interesting enough, it will be very, very enticing to see how this plays out at a larger scale. If you
Mhm.
if you have time, like 2-3 minutes, I will try to explain a little bit about the tokenomics because it's actually something that, at least to my knowledge, hasn't been done yet. So there
Yeah,
is
let's do
no
it.
fixed, there's no fixed supply of the flip token, the fungible token, the GRC20. So every board minted will always come with a locked flip supply, and there will be endless supply. For as long as people mint boards, there will be a locked flip token there. The problem is the token is becoming free and transferable and really fungible when someone else's uses that board to assemble it in a bigger one. So on one side, there is this pressure of consuming what the people are uncovering, so consuming the board, because that makes the supply go up, because the real supply go up only when we unlock flip tokens. But on the other side, it could be really easy for people to kind of game this thing and kind of make an account for making for uncovering tiles and another account to use those tiles and so on and so forth. So when you actually make a big a composite NFT, as I call it, like you assemble this in an art thing, you can actually sell it, and this is where things can become interesting, because you can get much more flip on an assemble thing than on just you had the one, which is like unitary one. If you make a composite NFT out of 9 that happens to look interesting, or can be used as a metaverse wall decoration and stuff like that, because the utility of this kind of composite NFTs can go way beyond the actual thing. They're just kind of almost agnostic, surfaces, colored surfaces that can represent the meaning and can be assembled in many ways. So once you get this and you can sell it, you can make a lot more money. So on one side, there is incentive for people to sell this. So this is where tokenomics gets weird. So when you sell a composite NFT and you list it for 10 flip, what happens is that if someone pays 10 flip to you, between 1 and 50% of that amount, randomly chosen, it's burned forever. So you list it for 10, but you may get anywhere between 5 and 9.99. No, the rest of the amount is actually burned, because every sell event kind of makes the supply go down, because we think there's value associated with the actual NFT that you get. So there's these two kind of forces. On one side, you kind of make infinite supply, locked supply, then you kind of sell this and the supply goes down. In my opinion, this kind of reach at some point some equilibrium in which the flip token will actually have some value, some real value that is devised by the actual activities of the people, and it's not pegged to any other asset. It's just the result of the actual activities and the actual meaning tied up to all these activities.
Yeah, that's it's really interesting actually. It's a really fun experiment. I'm like excited to see what kind of happens when I mean right now it's in testnet, right? So people, I mean people can play with it and there won't really be like a value assigned to it, but like when we hit mainnet, you're gonna push it there and see what happens, huh?
Yeah, by all means. I'm really curious too. I mean, you don't know. You don't know what it is, how people
Yeah,
will react. Yeah.
it's a fun little experiment. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, cool. So I have just a couple more questions. I don't know how you're feeling, but do you want to
Okay.
sort of pop through?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Um, what did you enjoy the most about contributing to No?
Oh, first of all, I like the ethos of the community, to be honest. I've been watching No for many, I think for at least 1.5 years. And since the testnet one, and I saw how the first board came up and how you could use render home and you can actually render a tiny little markdown thing. And, so first of all, I like the ethos. I like the technical challenge of building smart contracts in Go. Everything in the crypto right now at the smart contract level is Solidity or Rust or Cosmos or whatever. Go is something which is quite new here and it's interesting. And third, I mean, it's a proven track record. Jay has been into Atom. I know Jay, and I kind of trust his vision. Even if at times that vision seems blurry for other people, I kind of have a way to understand what's going on. We kind of share many of his visions, including those more cryptic tweets that sometimes he sends. I'm very much on the same page with Jay on those ones, just to make things clear. So yeah, that's a relevant reason for me to be here.
Cool. So, I mean, it seems like you're enjoying the software, you enjoy Jay's vision, you're kind of aligning with the ethos of Gno.land in general.
Yeah.
Kind of moving forward with that. Are there any particular aspects of the mission or the values of No that you really resonate with and that sort of make your contributions especially rewarding?
I mean, at at this point, I feel like I'm just kind of starting to go into a tropical forest with just a machete. You know, that's kind of the thing that kind of makes me very enthusiastic about this. It's just all so virgin territory. We have to kind of uncover everything. Like I told you, I'm literally the first grantee here, and the following grants have been outstanding. I mean, I'm the first grantee writing a tiny little game, and the next one is like Bertie with no mobile, which makes no working on mobile just like this. So things are happening at lightning speed here, and a lot of stuff is unfolding. So what I'm really excited about this is new. This is something brand new, and I love to be part of something new. It may go sideways, it may go down, it may go extremely up. We don't know yet. We hope it will go extremely up in terms of adoption and utility and usability, and make help people live better lives eventually. But we don't know yet. We're just doing our best. We try. Let's see what
Yeah.
happens.
I mean, a little bit of props to you though, honestly, like being the first grantee, being the first sort of game developer, you literally created probably like one of the first apps in Gno.land. And I think, you said it yourself, like you had challenges, you contacted the core team, there was a lot of like back and forth, they figured out a way forward, and you sort of are helping to build that path with contributions in the future. So like thank you to you, but also like it's cool that it's like a testament to like how much Gno.land is being built by external contributors. Like
Thank
it's just
you.
kind of a
Thank you.
fact. Like yeah, yeah, it's cool. So I mean, now that you've had the firsthand experience, for other people that are interested in joining Gno.land or the grants program, what kind of first steps would you recommend?
Uh, Funny you ask this because I started to work on a series of video tutorials on how to do this. As a result of this, I talked to Devrel, to Michelle, and we agreed that I
Oh,
will start a 7 part tutorial on this. I will kind of send a link very soon to kind of for the first one to kind of get a ton of voice or the level of complexity of the tutorial to make sure I'm not creating all the seven in the wrong way. So I think the first and the most important thing is to understand um, the basic local development, and don't focus anything on sending messages to testnet on everything. Just have your ducks together into how to start a chain, how to find your account, and how to start making transaction on command line using Nokia TX, and then move along with Node.js client or Adena wallet interface, and start taking from there. There are many useful resources, and I want to give a huge prop to OnBlock. OnBlock is one of the other contributors. They created the Adena wallet and Gno.swap, if I'm remembering correctly, and
Hmm.
they had made huge contribution in terms of documentation. They maintain on docs on block XYZ. They maintain a very up-to-date documentation with all the core features and how you actually start with Gno. So that's one of the resources that I would very much recommend. I've been using it extensively.
Cool. Yeah, Unblock has been MVP for sure.
Yeah,
They have no swap, Adena wallet, and no scan, and
yeah,
they've been doing a ton of back end work, kind of just making it ready so that when mainnet hits, we have the tools. But what's cool is like even now that it's in testnet, all this stuff is working.
yeah. I remember just an example of how fast and quick they are. We had this conversation at some point. We need to integrate MathFriend, and I was looking into MathFriend, which is a Go package, like the easiest way to have a randomness in Go, which is a bit of a largest topic. So I said I signed up. I'm gonna try to do Math Friend, and then I got sidetracked for like 2 or 3 days or maybe 4 days. And when I got back and I looked at OnBlock, they already solved it. They already integrated Math Friend. I said, okay, thank you.
Oh
So I
man,
eventually ended up with some internal hack on my own, like I told you. But that's how fast they are.
yeah, they're definitely pulling their weight. Props to them. What kind of contributions do you think would be particularly valuable here in the project's future in the next couple of months?
I had a workshop with a few members of the team and Manfred and Michelle, and I made a presentation of a project management tool that I've been using. It's basically a life management framework that I've been created like for like 10 years, and I've been using it every day since. There is an app in the app stores, like kind of implementing this framework. It's called Zentastic, like the Zen fantastic, but zentastic kind of keeps you zentastic. And you can have an idea, but this is written in Swift and it works on iOS and Mac OS, and kind of changes data seamlessly into them. You have your data on Mac and on iOS all the time. So what this framework does is kind of streamlines your work and kind of makes you more balanced, understanding that you spend your life in just three realms all the time. One is assess, when you evaluate; one is decide, when you plan and allocate resources; and one is do, when you actually execute. So if you kind of start to implement this framework and put all the activities into the right realm, one of the things that happened first is that you experience more flow, and second, you get instant observability in your own state. If you have too much in assess, there's a problem. If you have too much in decide, there's a different problem. And if you have too much in do, there's a completely different problem. So I had a workshop, and out of this workshop a new grant proposal emerged, which is up for evaluation right now. And if
Hmm.
this proposal gets evaluated, there will be another project which will result in three types of products. One of them would be a specific server of assess, decide, do. Another one would be an opinionated app based on this and based on the server that will help people inside the GNO ecosystem work with each other. And the third one would be an implementation of this for a specific user, like my own to-do app based on this. So this is the proposal that is up for evaluation once Flippando is done It will be like a question of days right now. If this proposal gets forward, that's what I'm focusing. If not, we'll see.
Cool. So you're sticking around.
I'd very much like to. I like how it feels here. Yeah,
Oh,
it,
that's
it's
awesome.
good. It's nice. I like.
Um, this is my last question, actually. Wait, I was gonna ask you if you're working on another project, but you kind of answered that one.
Mhm.
So I'll just kind of end it. Do you have anything that you're personally looking forward to the most with Gno.land?
Ah, can you repeat? I don't think I got. If I have everything that I
Yeah. Do you have anything that you're looking forward to the most with Gno.land?
yeah, mainnet. I'm looking forward to the mainnet.
Oh man, when mainnet? Oh my
Yeah,
goodness, when launch?
yeah, I'm
Yeah,
really
no,
looking
it's
forward to. I
this
mean,
is
there's the product is very interesting, and the code base is really solid right now. I'm looking at it. I'm using it every day, and like I'm getting all the hot releases and everything. Yeah, we're getting there. It's very close.
yeah.
Yeah,
We just for anyone watching this later, like we're getting there. Trust us.
yeah,
Um, oh man, thank
yeah.
you, Dragos. Thank you for your time
Yeah.
and that
Thank you,
demonstration. And
John.
I'm actually really excited to try it out. Honestly, like it'll be running on testnet probably later this week.
Hmm.
I'll be releasing this video uh, probably the same day that it comes out, just so there's like context.
Hmm. That would
But
be
yeah,
great. Thanks for having me. It was really nice chatting to
yeah, it was fun. I had a blast. Thanks so much.
you. Hmm.
All right, have a good day.
Cheers. Bye.
Ciao.